Namaskar. A very hearty welcome to each one of you. Let us take a few moments to go within and just connect with the body from head to toe, from skin to bone. And as you connect to the body, also connect to the breath. Becoming aware of the spontaneous breathing process. And now make that subtle shift in awareness where you disconnect with the breath. Insofar as your personal involvement or interference is concerned, just be gently aware and see how the breath is happening on its own. Watching the breath happen is a very powerful exercise because it connects to the subtle nuances of the breath. And it becomes possible for one to see how the breath is affecting the body and the mind. Breath is the bridge between the body and the mind. And when the breath is happening on its own, it creates an inner environment of peace and quiet, where many secrets of the body and the mind are revealed. If you stand by the side of a pond on a particular day when there is no wind, and there are no ripples on the surface of the pond, the water can settle down and you can see through to the bottom of the lake. In the same way, when the breath has settled down completely, it is happening in such a subtle fashion that many a time one feels that it has become stationary and is not moving at all. Then the surface of the lake of the mind has no ripples, and it becomes possible to see through the waters of the lake to the bottom. and we come to face our own true reality. When the body has become quiet and the mind has become still, it becomes possible for us to understand and realize the meaning of the first sutra of Shiva Sutras, Chaitanyam Atma, Chaitanyam Atma. Become aware of this pulsating energy which is in the nature of light, the light of knowledge, which is supremely free, which is all-knowing and all-pervading. In the light of this energy, we can experience our free nature. Chaitanyam Atma. In this supreme freedom, that is our real nature, manifests in so many ways. If we are aligned to it, we become free of this cycle of bondage, the cycle of life and death. But just because there is supreme freedom, if the energy decides to identify with the sense of bondage, then we become the bound human being, limited in all aspects. There is a limitation to our Ichcha Shakti, the power of intent. There is a limitation to our Gyan Shakti, the power to acquire knowledge. And there is a limitation to our power of creation, the Kriya Shakti. And this is why when we identify as a human being, identify ourselves as human beings or limited beings, we feel limited. We are always aspiring to expand the area of experience. There is always this thought, I am incomplete. and I need to add something to myself to become complete. So we go on a search for wealth, search for emotional security by having friends and relatives and families. We go on creating different ideas and living those ideas. And yet, because there is a limitation inherent in our existence as human beings, no matter what we achieve on the outside world, we still remain incomplete. And there is always the thirst to have some more wealth, have some more prestige, enjoy some more love, some more recognition. And through this process, we create karmic entanglements. And the cycle of birth and death goes on. This entanglement is also due to the inherent freedom of Chaitanyam Atma. So the Atma is free, it is divine, it is no different from God. And yet, due to entanglement in Maya, it becomes limited. And Chaitanya Atma is the sutra that we know our true nature, and once we know it, we become free. We can drop all false identifications. And this is why the journey to enlightenment is not by stages. It is not a kitty or a bank where you add a fixed sum every day, every month, and gradually you will have a treasure. It is in an instant. You keep working upon yourself and you remain bound because you are still in the clutches of the mind or the limitations of the mind and the body. And one day when this limitation drops, suddenly you discover your oneness with everyone and everything. The veil of illusion disappears for all time. Kashmir Shaivism is unique because it acknowledges everything. It sees everything as the play of Chaitanyam Atma. So just take a few moments to be in this space of Chaitanyam Atma. The sense of body has gone. You feel like a hollow. The breath is extremely subtle and very, very slow and easy. And yet, each time you breathe in, you can feel the sense of being that is within. Chaitanyam Atma. So even though we are born free, the sense of incompleteness or the sense of being bound or limited also comes from that inherent freedom that all of us enjoy. A lamp is shining bright, and somebody covers the flame with the help of a steel bucket which is inverted. Now the light of the flame is not visible on the outside, but it is not the case that there is no light. It is always present. The steel bucket is the outer covering that has hidden the light. Once the covering is removed, the lamp will shine in full glory. So it is just a question of dropping our false understanding and the effulgent light of the self will shine forth. Chaitanyam Atma. Just remain in the experience of Chaitanyam Atma for a few minutes. Very, very gently start becoming aware of your body and its environment. Put your awareness to various points or areas where the body is in contact with the chair or the floor or the bed. Take a few deep breaths and very, very gently bring yourself out. So how does it feel right now? Any shares? Anybody wants to say something? No? Does it feel good?
Very calm, sir. Very calm and peaceful.
Okay. So this is what happens when we connect to the source on the inside. And that is what Chaitanyam Atma is. It is pulsating, it is full of life, and yet it has no identification. Because to go within, we have to leave our identities outside. And this is common to everybody. It is not that a woman has a different awareness and a man has different awareness. Awareness or consciousness is the same. It is not divided or distinguished by nationality, religion, caste, creed, anything. It is the same. And that is why the Shiva Sutras say Chaitanyam Atma. And that is what is worth knowing. All other things that we know, these are of no use. Can you see the screen? Yes?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we did the first sutra, which is Chaitanyam Atma. And now we can do the second sutra, which is Jnanam Bandha. So can you see the slide? Jnanam Bandha.
Yes, sir.
So the second sutra says Jnanam Bandha. To put it very simply, Jnanam is knowledge. Bandha is bondage. So what this sutra is saying is that knowledge is bondage. And Swami Lakshmanju Maharaj in his exposition on the sutras, he explains it in two ways. He said, because man is by nature limited, man is not God or divine. The energy that is manifesting through a human being in the human body is limited. So what is the explanation that he gives? That the limited knowledge is bondage. And what is limited knowledge? The knowledge that we have as human beings is differentiated knowledge. We always compare, we always see the difference. We know things by difference. When I say that I belong to such and such caste, the very implied meaning is that I am different from you. When I say that I belong to this nationality, I am so and so, I do this job, by implication I am saying that I am different from you. I have a specific identity, that an identity which is specific to me. So he says that knowing differentiatedly is bondage. This limited knowledge is bondage. And because this is not the knowledge which Shiva has. Shiva is one with everything, everyone. So unless we get into that state of Shivahood, where we identify with everything without any differentiation, we are bound. It is not correct knowledge. It is knowledge that is going to create bondage. And then the other part that Swami Lakshmanji says, that not knowing undifferentiatedly is also bondage. As long as I think that I am separate and others are separate, I do not recognize the unity of everything. I see only the difference. And I am not aware of the underlying unity. Then that also is bondage. So there are two things. Jnanam bandha at one level, that whatever I know is bondage. And what I do not know, that everything is the same, is also bondage. So this is what this sutra is telling us. So if we just identify with the first sutra and also use the second sutra, then we will say Chaitanyam Atma Ajnanam Bandha. This Atma is nothing but Chaitanya, the pure consciousness, the supremely free consciousness of God. But if I don't know that, I am bound. I am not knowing, therefore I am bound. I don't see that unity, therefore I am bound. And the other part is, again we can say Chaitanyam Atma Jnanam Bandha. My inner self is nothing but the supremely free consciousness of God. But whatever knowledge I possess, that knowledge is bondage. So there are two aspects to it, that knowing or knowledge is bondage, and not having the correct knowledge is also bondage. So we can see, if we examine, we will see that we are operating from both the aspects. Okay, there are times when we just don't know. And that is what bondage is about. And there are aspects where we know, but our knowing is limited, and that is how there is bondage. It seems very terse, but if we, as we explore this, we will know. Okay, first says Jnanam Bandha, knowing is bondage or knowledge is bondage. So what knowledge is bondage? That knowledge which differentiates, which creates a division between I and you, or us and them, that is bondage. And Ajnanam Bandha, not knowing that we are all one. There is only one Chaitanya which is operating in everything, which is manifesting as everyone and everything. Not knowing that is also bondage. So to explain this, Swamiji says that knowing individual consciousness as one's nature. Yeah, I think I am an individual. I am limited. And this is what I am. That is bondage. And not knowing the universal consciousness as one's nature. And I don't know that God has chosen to live inside me as me. And that same God is manifesting as other persons, other beings, other things, everything. This whole universe is nothing but a manifestation of the divine. Not knowing that is also bondage. So, we can skip this because this will complicate things. So, what is it that Shiva Sutras are telling us? That everything is permeated by the self, everything is permeated by Chaitanya. And this is just like even in a vacuum where there is nothing, the Chaitanya is. So it is like this vacuum, there is a vacuum and it is pervaded by consciousness. And in that vacuum, when there is a contraction or limitation, then we forget that we are Shiva and we become bound. And how does this bound nature shows? It shows because we always feel that we are incomplete. So a person who is bound is always looking for something else to complete himself. Even people who go on the spiritual path, why are they on the spiritual path? Because there is an understanding that I will get something which will complete me. I will become free. So because of this sense of incompleteness, the search is there. And this is why the world is playing itself out. Whatever is there in the world, everybody is operating from a sense of incompleteness, and that is why this world is there. This world of form and attribute. So, why this world is there? It is because of certain impurities. And these impurities in Kashmir Shaivism are called Anmamal. It's a kind of a mal. Mal is an impurity. So what are the two types of impurities? Okay, first there is knowledge which is incomplete knowledge or shrunken knowledge. That shrunken knowledge creates differences in the world. So we see only the difference in the world. We see ourselves as separate from others. And this is ignorance or this is avidya because we do not know the undifferentiated state of things. We do not know, we fail to recognize that everything is having the same Chaitanya. So, wrong understanding of separation because of inadequate appreciation of Chaitanya is bondage. So when you do not know your undifferentiated state, that is ignorance. But that is sankuchit gyan, this shrunken knowledge, limited knowledge. And this bondage, as I said earlier, that this Chaitanya Mahatma, when we say this Chaitanya is supremely free. So when we are in that state of Chaitanya, we identify with it or we are with it completely, then we are supremely free. But as long as we are not in that state, that supreme state of freedom gives us the freedom to think that we are limited. So as long as we are thinking that we are limited, we are contracted, that also is bondage. So it is your own free will. This is what Swamiji says, ki bondage is the result of your own freedom. In other traditions, bondage is considered as something bad, it's avoidable. What Kashmir Shaivism says, that depending upon your state of being, you are either free or you feel incomplete. So if you identify with the sense of incompleteness, you are not free. But if you identify with completeness, you become free. So not just that the knowledge of the differentiated world, this world of forms and attributes, separation is bondage. that not knowing that there is a common thread of awareness which is going through all these things. Everything is pulsating with the same Chaitanya, that is also bondage. So Swamiji says, I am not the real self, I am not the universal consciousness. This statement is born out of bondage. Why? Because you have inserted your ego in the body. And when the ego is operating and this kind of a statement arises, that is bondage. So there is a jnanam bandha, not knowing the undifferentiated nature of things is bondage, and jnanam bandha, knowing oneself as a differentiated being is also bondage. So just a moment, somebody is... Yeah. So why this jnanam bandha? We must sort of examine this. Okay, why does it say that your knowledge is bondage? So what is the knowledge that we have? Everything that we know today, or we can claim to know, it has come from outside. The knowledge that we have, even to know that, I am the Atma. Everybody has read Gita and people know. But that is borrowed from Gita. Is this the experience that we have? No. So as long as we are operating with an borrowed idea, that knowledge is bondage. It is not going to give us freedom. We will not be free. That is why you will find that there are people who are very knowledgeable. They have read so many scriptures, they can give so many lectures, but when it comes to practicing, they are found wanting. Because it is borrowed knowledge which they are trying to propagate. So this is what Shiva Sutras make very clear, that your very knowledge which you have borrowed from any other source is not yours. It is not your truth. So you will not get liberation with that knowledge. So just take a moment to contemplate this. We all have read so many scriptures. But have we become free by reading those scriptures or understanding them intellectually? The answer is no. So what is Gyan? In my life, Gyan has appeared as my friend Brahma Prakash Gaur, who is present here in this session. But that's a form. That is something which is perceived by my senses. So whatever we have perceived through the outer world, it cannot be the reality of being. It cannot be my reality. It always be somebody else, other person. So we must know what is our own true reality. That is why, Ramana Maharshi always used to ask everyone, you must ask this question, who are you? Who am I? If somebody asked him a question, he would say, ask yourself, who is asking this question through you? So what was the idea behind Ramana Maharshi's advice or the counter question. Forget the answer, because if somebody comes and asks him a question, please tell me who am I, what is my reality, he gives an answer. But for that person it is a borrowed answer. Maybe it is given by somebody of the stature of Ramana Maharshi, but that answer does not liberate that person. That is why he used to say that somebody asks a question and he would say, ask yourself, who is asking this question through you? If I am speaking, who is listening my words through you? So go and investigate your own being, your own body, your own mind, your own senses. Discard the outer world. Outer knowledge is not going to help you. It can give you an ego, it can give you some satisfaction, but it will not tell you about your own true reality. That is why in many traditions it is said, and my own guru once said, knowledge does not liberate you. Knowing does. What is knowing and why is it different from knowledge? Because knowledge comes through the mind, through the filter of the mind. Knowing is experienced directly in the heart. When you fall in love, you don't look for third-party evidence. You don't have to read a book on love to experience that you are in love. When you are angry, you don't need a third-party evidence. You don't have to read some kind of a literature to find out the signs of anger and what happens when a person is angry. You just know it. So experience comes through the heart. So we must travel from the filter of the mind to the direct perception of the heart. And that is when the real knowledge, the true worth of a person, the real experience of one's own being can be had. And this is why the Shiva Sutra says, Jnanam Bandha. Just close your eyes for a minute. Watch your breath and ask yourself, this question. We all identify with our bodies. Where has this body come from? Is this body ours? Or is it a gift of our parents? Both the mother and father came together, creation happened, and this body came into being. We did not fashion our bodies. But we take so much pride and say, oh, this is my body. Jnanam Bandha. This knowledge that it is my body is false knowledge, it is bondage. Look at how the body is being sustained. We have studied or read about the Annamaya Kosh body. The physical body is the Annamaya Kosh. So how this body comes to be sustained is because of food that we consume. So it is made up of food. that we eat every day. Then how does this become our body? You go further, dissect the body, and you will find that it is made up of the 5 elements. Has any of us created those elements? Did we do any experiment in the lab where we brought those elements together and the body came to be formed? No. So it is a false identification that I am the body. But the body is being sustained, it is being kept there, and it is operative because of something more subtle. And what is that? Chaitanyam, pure consciousness. And that consciousness has not come from our parents. That consciousness does not come from the food we eat or the elements of this of which the body is made up of. That consciousness existed even before we came on this planet, and it will continue to be when we leave this planet and this body is dropped and it finds itself either in a grave or it is burnt or it is put in a river. And all the gross body, all the parts, they just merge into the 5 elements. So this has been beautifully explained. Jnanam Bandha is not just a statement that we can hang on a school wall or a college wall or in our drawing rooms or puja rooms on a plaque and point to it and say Jnanam Bandha, Jnanam Bandha. It's not that. It is a matter of experimentation, deep contemplation. And if we examine what we think knowledge to be, whatever we think we have, whatever knowledge we have, it has come from schools, universities, scriptures, teachers. But all this knowledge, it is part of your body and mind. It's not you. It is not you who knows the knowledge. And that is why I understood it much later. My guru once said that don't be trapped in knowledge. Know the knower of the knowledge. That Supreme Consciousness knows. So unless we know that Supreme Consciousness, we cannot know our true reality and we will remain bound. And this Supreme Consciousness is the pure element of which we are made of. And this is our Swabhava. Swabhava. My own truth. And only this truth is worth knowing. Anything that we have acquired is not our Swabhava. In fact, it is the only thing that divides us. Look at this society. There are so many people drawn from so many regions, so many castes, so many colors, so many ethnicities, so many religions. You cut open their bodies. Do you see anything which is differentiating one body from the other? No. The blood, the flesh, the bones, they are all alike. But if you examine the brain, then you will come to see the difference. And what will you discover? That the scripture stored in the brain is different. The principles or the belief systems stored in the brains are different. The slogans stored there are different. But where does this difference come from? This comes from the difference in the knowledge which has been imparted to that person. It depends upon family environment, upbringing, whatever. So whatever difference we notice in the brain system or the personality of the people is just because of borrowed knowledge. We were born in a particular family that followed a particular religion. We accepted that religion. If we were to be born in a different family following a different religion, we would have happily followed that religion. So somebody is reciting the Quran, another person is reciting the Sanskrit shlokas. The fact of the matter to know is that it is all borrowed knowledge, an accident of circumstance. The real knowledge is only to know the essential nature of man, the Swabhav, Chaitanyam Atma. All other knowledge is nothing but bondage. Osho has said something very beautiful about it. It is in Hindi, so I will read it in Hindi. You can close your eyes and listen. शिव कहते हैं, ज्ञान बंद है, ज्ञान सीखा हुआ, ज्ञान उधार का, ज्ञान दूसरे से लिया हुआ, ये बंधन का कारण है. तुम उस सब को छोड़ देना जो दूसरे से मिला है. तुम उसकी तलाश करना जो तुम्हें किसी से भी नहीं मिला. Some people may have some challenge with Hindi, so I'll translate in English. What Osho is saying is that knowledge which you have acquired, which you have learnt and borrowed from others, is the cause of your bondage. Therefore, whatever you have received from others, from outside, just abandon, give up. It is of no use. If you have to search for that which did not come from anyone else. He says, तुम उसकी खोज में निकलना, उस चेहरे की खोज में जो तुम्हारा है. We are all wearing masks because of borrowed knowledge. We have personalities, and persona means a mask. We are all wearing masks. But we have not looked for the real face behind the mask. And Osho says that if you have to go on a search, if you go to go on a mission of discovery, then discover your true face. He says, तुम्हारे भीतर छुपा हुआ एक झरना है, चैतन्य का, जो तुम्हें किसी से भी नहीं मिला. Hidden inside your being is a beautiful fall. And these falls are raining the showers of Chaitanya, the Supreme Consciousness. That consciousness which is not given to you by anyone. It has always been yours. जो तुम्हारा स्वभाव है, it is your true nature. जो तुम्हारी निज संपदा है, it is your real treasure that has always been there with you. निजत्व है, this is you. वही तुम्हारी आत्मा है. That is your inner self. So contemplate this statement by Osho. Jnanam bandha. How long are we going to be chasing borrowed knowledge that binds us and creates entanglement in this world? How many lifetimes are we going to spend running after statements contained in scriptures, contained in books written by great teachers, without ever having experienced the truth behind those scriptures or statements? Because the truth, if any, has to be ours. Knowing the knower within is coming in contact with Chaitanyam Atma. And to get there, it is essential to recognize Jnanam Bandha. Borrowed knowledge is of no use. It is a form of bondage. A person was put in jail. And he insisted that whenever he is taken out, he should be cuffed and chained in cuffs and chains of gold. Borrowed knowledge is like the chains of gold. We may feel very happy about the fact that they glitter and shine, but they keep us in chains. Unless we know our own true nature, freedom cannot be ours. And that is why Osho says that just discard whatever borrowed knowledge there is. Explore your own being and connect with consciousness that is yours. Nobody ever gave it to you, and nobody can ever take it from you. Just sit quietly, contemplate this. Take a few deep breaths. Start becoming aware of your body. And when you are ready, you can bring yourself out very, very gently. If there are any questions, I will be very happy to answer. Yes, Sanover, you want to say something? Yes, go ahead.
Just just 1 hour has gone by and it just feels so quick. I just wanted to say that.
Yes, it
Yeah,
is very.
engaging. Yes.
Shiva Sutras are there to just, sort of jolt people out of slumber.
Yeah, it
So
just,
when you are aware, yes, it is quick.
अंकल ये कॉन्शियसनेस कैसे आता है इंसान में? यानी मेडिकली वो आता है या ऐसा बाहर से ही आता
It
है
is already there. Shiva is there. Shiva decided that he wants to explore the world in the form of Amal. So he came. It is out of his supreme freedom. तो किसी ने बनाया नहीं है. आप फूल का को डाइसेक्ट करके उसको डिसमेंटल करके उसके सारे एलिमेंट्स को अलग कर सकते हो, लेकिन फूल बना सकते हो क्या? नहीं बना सकते. किसी बच्चे को उसका हाथ पांव खींच करके अलग कर दो, सब कुछ अलग कर दो, उसमें जान डाल सकते हो क्या? नहीं डाल सकते. That is coming from God, and it is always there. But for a limited form, it becomes a mole, it becomes Gyan, it becomes an over. Man, woman, this, that, our roles. I am old, I am young, I am sick, I am useless, I am useful. All these concepts are there. That is why the Shiva Sutras are very important, because say that the supreme freedom of divine or Shiva is free, is already there inside each one of us. We are already free. But we think that I have to do something spiritual to become more worthy, to become free, to do this, to do that. So we are bound. It is because of that supreme freedom which Shiva has inside us that we feel we are bound. But if we connect with him, then immediately instantaneous freedom. It is like, there was a big party or royal party going on, and suddenly the queen started shouting, I have lost my necklace, I have lost my necklace. And then somebody said, no, you haven't looked at your own neck, it is already there. And she touched it, oh, say, ha ha ha, yes, it's alright. So it's the same thing, that when we realize that our own true nature, then we know it was never lost and it was never found. It is there all the time.
So,
It is our
Baisa,
true nature. Yes.
basically, does that mean that we don't have to attempt for liberation?
No, it is knowing. The attempt for liberation is also a form of your ego, which is telling you that you do this, you do that. You meet so many people who will say that, oh, I do so much of tapasya, I have done so much. But fact of the matter is that this tapasya which they are doing with this intention that I will be liberated one day, that itself is bondage. See, there is a very good story that there were two sannyasis or three sannyasis meditating under a tree. And Lord Vishnu appeared and said, oh, I am so happy with your tapasya. You ask me whatever you want. And all the three were sannyasis. They said, no, we don't have to get anything from this world. Just tell us how much time do we have left to become enlightened. And the Lord said, look at this tree. It will take as many lifetimes as the number of leaves on this tree. Now one fellow started dancing. He said, okay, much has gone. Only this much is left. It's fine. And there were two others who got very angry. They said, oh my God, this is absolutely unfair. We have been doing so much of tapasya and we will not get enlightened. But the one who started dancing, he got enlightened immediately. Because he did not have any hang-up. Others were doing tapasya, but they were doing tapasya with the thought that I am doing something very meritorious. I must get a proper reward. God must be very kind to appreciate whatever we are doing. So when God told them that, look, you have still a long way to go, they became very angry and they lost it. So it is like this. It's a shift in awareness. Look at many people. I met some army officers. One of my very dear friends was posted in Sri Lanka when the IPKF went into Sri Lanka. And they had a very tough time there. Because LTT was on its home turf, the Indian army, where they were outsiders. Every day they were losing men. And the LTT knew the terrain, they had the advantage of, the surprise. And our people were exposed. And they were using, the civilians as shield. The Indian army would not fire at civilians. So they were like sitting ducks, they were losing. And this man told me that every day when we used to go on a mission, I would tell my, the attendant that this is what it is, these are the things. If I don't come back, just inform my wife, send everything to him. And he said, I saw this every day, people to the right of me, people to the left of me, they were just falling. And then he said, there was one time we were just in a very, very dangerous situation and there was a sudden shift in awareness. And the mind was not there. And we all went into that kind of state where we acted without the mind. We had bypassed the mind. And that state lasted with me for several weeks. And my awareness changed completely after that. So it is like this, that it can happen in any way. A moment of great danger can make you enlightened. So this whole thought that I am doing tapasya and it will be giving a reward, this is man-made, it is your concept. So your concept is bondage. Any concept is bondage. Jnanam bandha. ये कॉन्सेप्ट 2 कौड़ी का है. जिसने इसको जान लिया उसको कम से कम ये तो फायदा हो जाएगा कि वो उस कॉन्सेप्ट में नहीं फंसे. It may sound very harsh, but this is true. That is why Shiva Sutras are very revolutionary. These are not for the weak-hearted. Because weak-hearted will require support of tradition, scriptures. Here it is instantaneous. You understand and you are free. Any other question?
I'm wondering how it will be like to go beyond the
Nothing.
mind.
You will do is you will be the same Duro, eating the same food, going and sitting in the morning at the same shit pot. No change. The awareness will shift. This is what one of the Swamis in my Guru's ashram told me. She said, when enlightenment happened, there was a complete shift. I was more aware of everything. Every step I took, every breath I took, I was aware. But nothing changed. It was not that, the gods descended from the heavens with band baja and to celebrate my enlightenment. No, nothing. I was the same person. If I had to travel, I would to go and stand in a line, take a ticket, carry my bag. Everything was the same. But awareness had changed. That is why that shift in awareness is important. This is why these sutras are there. You are not the bound human being. You are the supremely free consciousness of God. And any knowledge that you have, anything that you think is worthy of knowledge or knowing, that is your chain. It may be a golden chain. Instead of a very heavy steel chain, it may be a golden chain, but it is a chain nevertheless.
So the awareness shift that happens, that continues. That doesn't go
It
away.
is like this that so what happens is that there are people who have glimpses of enlightenment. So initially it will be a glimpse of enlightenment.
Comes and goes.
Yeah, but it will come and go because you are surrounded by this world, the familiar patterns come up, so you miss that point. But there will come a point when the enlightenment really grows inside and it matures. Then there will be some kind of a moment when you are meditating and for 40 minutes, 45 minutes in continuous state, there is an unbroken awareness, no thought. You are in a thoughtless zone, there is no thought, and there is just the awareness of the self or the Chaitanya. Then the enlightenment becomes unbroken. But even thereafter, a person will need to purify because one has committed so many, inappropriate things in past lives. Their impressions are there. So when this enlightenment has happened and unbroken enlightenment has happened, thereafter some of the saints go into silence. They go into years of isolation. So they just remain in that state, and then the lot of purging happens, the body becomes free. Many diseases can come up and go away. They will be healed. So this is a process. But to get there, to know the real nature of man or to one's own true nature, it can be just an instant, quick shift. And it is beyond any concept. So good night, everyone, and we'll meet again next week. Let us see where it goes. Bye bye.